"I don't shake hands with staff," he sneered, yanking his manicured hand away from her extended palm like she carried some contagious disease. The marble lobby of First National Trust fell silent. 12 customers in line stopped their conversations. 3 tellers froze mid-transaction. Even the security guard's hand moved instinctively toward his body camera. Dr. Amara Kingston stood there, her hand suspended in the air for exactly 3 seconds. Her worn leather briefcase hung from her shoulder. Her modest blazer looked out of place among the designer suits and luxury handbags scattered throughout the bank's pristine interior. Branch manager Reginald Whitmore III turned to the nearby sanitizer station, pumping the dispenser twice while muttering hygiene protocols just loud enough for everyone to hear. A customer in line pulled out her phone. The red recording light blinked on. Have you ever been dismissed so completely that strangers started filming? What happened next changed banking forever. The digital clock above the marble reception desk read 2:47 p.m. In the corner office, Whitmore's computer screen displayed a calendar reminder: board meeting, 3:35 p.m., Q3 performance review, 47 minutes to showtime. Amara stepped closer to the polished counter, her voice steady despite the eyes now tracking her every movement. "I'd like to schedule a private consultation about portfolio restructuring." Whitmore's perfectly groomed eyebrows shot up. He exchanged a glance with assistant manager Trevor Carlyle, who had materialized beside him like a loyal shadow. Both men wore the same expression, barely concealed amusement wrapped in professional courtesy. "Ma'am," Whitmore's tone dripped with practiced patience, "our wealth management division requires a $500,000 minimum investment. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at our basic checking counter?" He gestured toward the far end of the lobby where a single teller handled routine transactions. The customer with the phone, a 20-something woman in yoga pants, shifted her angle for a better shot. Her Instagram story already showed 23 viewers. The hashtag #FirstNationalDrama would trend within 8 minutes. Amara didn't flinch. "I understand your minimums. That's exactly why I'm here." Whitmore's laugh was sharp, cutting through the lobby's hushed atmosphere like broken glass. "I appreciate your confidence, but we deal in serious money here. This isn't a community credit union." Behind the teller window, Jasmine Rodriguez felt her stomach clench. She'd worked at First National for 3 years, watching this same scene play out countless times. Different faces, same dismissive script. Her fingers found her phone beneath the counter, quickly typing a message to someone off camera. Security guard Demetrius Johnson repositioned himself near the entrance. 22 years on the force before taking this job, he knew trouble when he smelled it. His hand brushed against his body camera, making sure the device was recording. Amara's briefcase rested against her leg. The side pocket gaped slightly, revealing the corner of something metallic and black. A careful observer might notice the distinctive Centurion logo of an American Express black card, a piece of plastic requiring $10,000 annual fees and invitation-only status. Her phone buzzed. The notification flashed briefly. "Bloomberg Terminal Alert, Market Volatility Update." She glanced at it, then slipped the device back into her jacket. From her blazer pocket, the edge of a boarding pass protruded just enough to show First Class, JFK to Geneva, 8:15 p.m. Whitmore continued his performance, his voice rising slightly. "Look, I don't want to waste your time or mine. Our private banking clients include Fortune 500 executives, pharmaceutical company founders, real estate moguls. These are people who move markets, not follow them." Carlyle nodded vigorously, playing his supporting role to perfection. "Mr. Whitmore handles portfolios that most people can't even pronounce the numbers on." The Instagram live stream had reached 847 viewers. Comments flooded the screen. "This is so wrong," and "Someone needs to check this manager," mixed with angry face emojis and fire symbols. Mrs. Eleanor Hastings, 73 and sharp as her grandmother's pearls, stepped out of line. She'd banked here for 42 years, had watched 3 generations of her family grow up with First National accounts. Excuse me, young man, but I've never seen such rudeness in my life. Whitmore's smile faltered for just a moment. Mrs. Hastings, this doesn't concern you. Please return to your transaction. It concerns me when you treat customers like servants, Eleanor shot back, her voice carrying the authority of old money and older values. More phones emerged from pockets and purses. The scene was being captured from multiple angles now, uploaded to TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. Modern technology turned every public space into a potential courtroom. Amara remained calm, almost serene. Her fingers drummed once against her briefcase handle, a subtle rhythm that might have been nervousness or might have been something else entirely. Some people, Whitmore announced loudly enough for the growing audience, watch too much television. They think walking into a bank means you're automatically an investment banker. That was the moment everything shifted. The comment hit the lobby like a slap. Jasmine looked up from her window, horror written across her face. Demetrius stepped forward, his training kicking in. Even the other customers seemed to sense they'd crossed into dangerous territory. But Amara's expression didn't change. If anything, she seemed to grow more still, like a predator that had just spotted its prey. Television, she repeated quietly, almost to herself. That's interesting. The live stream viewer count jumped to 1,247. Someone had shared it to a local Facebook group. The notification badges on various phones began lighting up like Christmas trees. Whitmore, emboldened by what he mistook for submission, pressed his advantage. I'm just saying there's a difference between ambition and delusion. We can't help everyone who thinks they deserve the VIP treatment. The clock now read 2:54 p.m. 38 minutes until the board meeting that would determine Whitmore's promotion to regional vice president. He had no idea that 38 minutes was more time than he'd need to destroy his entire career. 2:56 p.m. The board meeting loomed 39 minutes away. Trevor Carlyle sensed an opportunity to impress his superior. He stepped forward, adjusting his tie with the confidence of a man who'd never been told no by anyone who mattered. Is there a problem here? His voice carried the practiced authority of middle management. Mr. Whitmore, do you need assistance handling this situation? The word situation hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. The Instagram live stream had exploded to 247 viewers, 147. Comments scrolled faster than anyone could read. This is discrimination. Someone call the news. Get her name. The hashtag #banking. While Poor began trending in real time across multiple platforms, Amara studied both men with the calm attention of a scientist observing specimens. There's no situation, gentlemen. I simply requested a consultation about moving my assets. Assets. Whitmore's repetition made the word sound like a joke. Ma'am, I think there might be some confusion about what constitutes investable assets versus, say, a savings account. Carlyle nodded enthusiastically. Perhaps our community branch on Elm Street would better serve your needs. They specialize in smaller accounts, first-time banking relationships, that sort of thing. The suggestion landed like a physical blow. Even Demetrius, positioned by the entrance, visibly winced. 40 years of life had taught him to recognize coded language when he heard it. 3 customers left the line in disgust. One was Mrs. Patterson, whose family had banked here since the 1960s. She made eye contact with the live streamer and shook her head slowly, deliberately. Eleanor Hastings had heard enough. Her Prada handbag hit the marble floor with a sharp crack as she stepped forward. Young man, I've been banking here since before you were born. This woman has conducted herself with more grace than you've shown in 5 minutes. Mrs. Hastings, Whitmore's voice carried a warning edge. Please don't let emotion cloud your judgment. We have procedures for a reason. The live streamer panned her camera to capture Eleanor's response. The 73-year-old woman drew herself up to her full 5'2" height. Don't you dare lecture me about emotion. I've watched this bank serve 3 generations of my family. I know good customer service from bigoted behavior. 2:58 p.m. 37 minutes until the board meeting. Carlyle pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. "I'm calling corporate security. This is becoming disruptive to our business operations." Disruptive. Amara tested the word like wine, rolling it around before swallowing. That's a fascinating choice of terminology. Her phone buzzed again. This time she glanced at the screen longer. The caller ID showed only initials. KH Executive Office. She declined the call with a single tap. Whitmore noticed the gesture. Something about her casual dismissal of what appeared to be an important call struck him as odd. People desperate to impress usually answered every ring. The Google reviews for First National Trust had begun their death spiral. The bank's rating dropped from 4.2 stars to 3.1 in the span of 6 minutes. Corporate would notice the algorithmic alert within the hour. Jasmine finished helping her customer and approached the group. 3 years of watching similar scenes had finally pushed her past her breaking point. "Mr. Whitmore, maybe we should—" "Jasmine, return to your station immediately." Whitmore's command cracked like a whip. "This doesn't concern teller staff." The live streamer caught Jasmine's face perfectly. The young woman's expression shifted from concern to resignation to something harder. Something that recognized injustice and refused to accept it quietly. "Actually," Jasmine said, her voice steady despite her trembling hands, "it concerns all of us." The lobby had become a theater. Customers pretended to check their phones while recording everything. The ancient security camera in the corner captured angles that would later become evidence. Social media turned witnesses into broadcasters, transforming a local incident into a national conversation. Demetrius stepped closer to the group. 22 years of police work had taught him to recognize the moment when situations crossed lines. His body camera recorded everything, a digital witness that couldn't be intimidated or silenced. "Ma'am," he addressed Amara with professional courtesy, "I'm sorry, but I have to ask you to either conduct your business or leave the premises. Bank policy." Amara turned to face him fully. Up close, Demetrius noticed details that distance had hidden. Her blazer, while modest, showed expert tailoring. Her shoes were Italian leather, worn but expensive. Her briefcase bore the subtle logo of a Swiss manufacturer that catered to executives and diplomats. "Of course, officer. But first, may I make one phone call?" The question was perfectly reasonable. Public spaces, constitutional rights, basic human dignity, all supported her request. But something in her tone suggested this wouldn't be a call to a lawyer or a complaint hotline. Whitmore's laugh echoed off the marble walls. "This isn't customer service theater, lady. We have actual clients waiting." He gestured toward the remaining customers in line. 2 pharmaceutical executives, a real estate developer, and a tech startup founder who'd been featured in Forbes last month. People whose time actually mattered, whose money moved markets, whose respect could advance careers. "I understand completely," Amara replied, sliding her phone from her jacket pocket. "Time is money, especially when you're losing $127 million per minute." The number landed in the lobby like a grenade with the pin pulled. $127 million per minute. Whitmore's laugh died in his throat. Carlyle's fingers froze above his phone screen. Even Eleanor stopped mid-gesture, her hand suspended halfway to her pearls. 3:02 p.m. 33 minutes until the board meeting that would determine whether Reginald Whitmore III became regional vice president or remained a small-town branch manager. The live stream had reached 8,734 viewers. Comments exploded with speculation. Did she say 127 million? What company is she? This is getting crazy. Amara's finger hovered over a contact labeled simply Office. Her thumb moved toward the call button with the deliberate precision of someone about to detonate a very carefully placed explosive. The marble lobby of First National Trust had become ground zero for something much larger than a customer service dispute. Money, power, dignity, and justice were about to collide in ways that would reshape not just one bank, but an entire industry's understanding of who deserved respect. And in 33 minutes, Reginald Whitmore III would discover that some conversations change everything. Amara's thumb touched the screen. The phone rang once before a crisp voice answered. "Kingston Holdings Executive Office." The words carried clearly through the lobby's marble acoustics. Whitmore continued his dismissive commentary about customer service theater, but Carlyle's face had begun to change. Something about that company name tugged at the edges of his memory. "This is Dr. Kingston," Amara spoke quietly, almost conversationally. "Please initiate Protocol 7, authorization code Omega 97. Immediately, Dr. Kingston. Shall I conference in legal?" "Not yet. I'm having an interesting conversation about customer service standards. I'll call back in 5 minutes." She ended the call and slipped the phone back into her jacket. The lobby had fallen completely silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant clicking of phone cameras capturing every moment. Whitmore's laugh sounded forced now, hollow. "Did you hear that? She's got an assistant playing along with her fantasy. What's next? Claiming she owns the Federal Reserve?" But Trevor Carlyle wasn't laughing. His fingers moved frantically across his phone screen, typing Kingston Holdings into Google. The search results loaded, and the color drained from his face like water from a broken dam. Kingston Holdings, $8.7 billion asset management firm. His hands trembled as he scrolled through the results. Forbes profile, Wall Street Journal interviews, Bloomberg terminal listings. And there, in a 6-month-old photograph from the Institutional Investor Awards ceremony, stood Dr. Amara Kingston, accepting an award for Excellence in Fiduciary Management. The same woman who stood 3 feet away, watching him with patient curiosity. "Mr. Whitmore," Carlyle's voice came out as a whisper. "You need to see this." But Whitmore was committed to his performance now, playing to an audience that included 12,847 live-stream viewers and growing. "I don't need to see anything except this person leaving our premises. Some people will go to incredible lengths to—" His phone rang. The caller ID made his blood freeze. "Margaret Chen, bank president." Whitmore stared at the screen. President Chen never called branch managers directly. Never. The chain of command at First National ran through 3 layers of regional management before reaching her office. "Answer it," Carlyle hissed, shoving his phone screen toward Whitmore's face. "Look at this. Look at this." Whitmore's eyes focused on Carlyle's screen. The Forbes article headline read, "Dr. Amara Kingston, the quiet power behind $8.7 billion in institutional investments." Below it, a subtitle, "How a former MIT professor built one of the nation's most influential asset management firms." The phone continued ringing. 16,000 people watched the live stream. Amara stood perfectly still, her expression unreadable. Whitmore answered on the 4th ring. "President Chen, whatever is happening in your branch right now, fix it. Immediately." Chen's voice cut through the line like surgical steel. "I have 6 board members asking me why our largest institutional partner is trending on social media in connection with discrimination claims." The words hung in the air like toxic gas. Largest institutional partner. "I don't understand," Whitmore stammered. "We don't have any—" "Dr. Amara Kingston, you absolute fool. $3.2 billion in managed assets. Pension funds, municipal bonds, private equity stakes. She's sitting in your lobby being live-streamed to 20,000 people while you treat her like—" Chen's words became a distant buzzing in Whitmore's ears. The phone slipped from his nerveless fingers, clattering against the marble floor. Amara bent gracefully and picked up the device. "President Chen, this is Amara Kingston. How lovely to hear from you. Dr. Kingston, I am mortified. Please tell me we can discuss this privately. The Geneva meeting is still on schedule?" Geneva was always flexible, Margaret, but this conversation has been quite educational. Amara handed the phone back to Whitmore, whose face had turned the color of old newspaper. Around the lobby, customers held their breath. Jasmine covered her mouth with both hands. Even Demetrius had stopped pretending to patrol and stood frozen near the entrance. The live stream had exploded to 23,891 viewers. Had banking dignity began trending nationally. Local news stations monitoring social media flagged the story for their evening broadcasts. Protocol 7, Carlyle whispered, finally understanding. What's Protocol 7? Amara's smile was gentle, almost maternal. Fiduciary withdrawal protocols. When institutional relationships terminate due to ethical violations. She opened her briefcase for the first time. Inside, nestled in custom leather slots, were documents bearing official seals and signatures. Legal papers that could move mountains of money with a few keystrokes. Your bank manages $127 billion in total assets, she continued, her voice never rising above conversational level. My firm controls $3.2 billion of that through various investment vehicles. The mathematics were simple, brutal, and devastating. Pension fund management, $847 million. Municipal bond portfolios, $1.1 billion. Private equity stakes in 17 companies, $1.3 billion. And Whitmore's MBA training kicked in automatically, calculating percentages even as his career crumbled around him. $3.2 billion out of $127 billion. Nearly 3% of the bank's total managed assets. In banking, 3% was the difference between profit and catastrophe. Our institutional agreement, Amara continued, pulling a thick document from her briefcase, includes Clause 47B, immediate withdrawal rights for discriminatory practices, breach of fiduciary duty, or failure to maintain dignity standards. She turned to a highlighted section and read aloud. Upon determination of ethical violations, client reserves the right to immediate asset withdrawal, with all associated penalties transferred to institution. The live stream had reached 31,247 viewers. Someone had shared it to Reddit. The story was spreading like wildfire through financial Twitter, where bank stock analysts tracked sentiment in real time. Whitmore's phone buzzed with notifications, text messages from colleagues, emails from supervisors, alerts from the bank's social media monitoring system. The damage was cascading through the institution's nervous system like a virus. Dr. Kingston, he began, his voice barely audible. Please, let's discuss this privately. Privacy was offered 18 minutes ago, she replied, checking her watch. I prefer transparency now. Carlyle grabbed Whitmore's arm. The board meeting. They're expecting you in 20 minutes to discuss your promotion. The irony was exquisite. Whitmore had spent the last 3 years positioning himself for regional vice president. The promotion required a spotless record, exemplary customer service ratings, and the ability to manage high-value relationships. In 18 minutes, he'd managed to destroy all three. Amara's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. KH, trading desk. Excuse me, she said to the group, answering the call. Yes? Dr. Kingston, we're seeing unusual activity in First National's stock price, down 4% in the last 10 minutes. Should we hedge our municipal bond positions? Her response carried clearly through the silent lobby. Not yet, but prepare the transition protocols for immediate execution if needed. She ended the call and looked at Whitmore with something that might have been pity. The market is efficient, Mr. Whitmore. 29,000 people are watching this conversation. Institutional investors read social media. Stock prices reflect sentiment in real time. The live stream counter showed 34,156 viewers and climbing. Comments flooded the screen faster than human eyes could follow. Local news trucks were probably already en route. I came here today, Amara said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority, to discuss expanding our relationship with First National, a new education initiative, possibly some community development projects. She paused, letting the words sink in. Now I'm considering ending it entirely. The words hit the lobby like a physical force. Ending it entirely. $3.2 billion, gone with a signature. Eleanor Hastings stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. "Young lady, I've been watching this whole disgusting display. Whatever you decide, you have my complete support." "Mrs. Hastings," Amara smiled, recognizing a kindred spirit, "thank you. Your loyalty to principle over convenience is exactly why institutions like this should exist." Jasmine had abandoned all pretense of working. She stood at her window, tears streaming down her face, not from sadness, but from the relief of watching justice unfold in real time. 3 years of swallowing similar humiliations, of watching customers dismissed and degraded, had been building to this moment. Demetrius approached the group, his body camera recording everything. "Ma'am, I need to apologize. I was just following procedure, but—" "Officer, you were perfectly professional," Amara interrupted. "You treated everyone with equal respect. That's all anyone can ask." The security guard's relief was visible. 22 years of police work had taught him the difference between following orders and following conscience. Today, they'd aligned. Whitmore's phone exploded with notifications. Regional managers, compliance officers, the communications department, everyone who mattered at First National was suddenly very interested in a small-town branch manager's Tuesday afternoon. "The expansion project," Carlyle whispered, remembering fragments from executive briefings. "The Community Development Initiative. 30 million in approved funding." Amara nodded. Kingston Holdings was prepared to recommend First National as the primary financial partner for 17 municipalities across 3 states. Infrastructure improvements, education funding, small business development. She pulled another document from her briefcase. "The preliminary agreements are already drafted. 2.3 billion in municipal bond financing over the next 5 years. The mathematics were staggering. Not just the immediate 3.2 billion withdrawal, but the loss of future business that dwarfed even those numbers. Whitmore's legs felt weak. He gripped the marble counter for support, watching his career dissolve in real time. The board meeting was now 17 minutes away. The same meeting where he'd expected to receive confirmation of his promotion to regional vice president. "Dr. Kingston," he managed, his voice barely a whisper. "I made a terrible mistake. Please, there must be some way to—" "Mistake." She tested the word like a prosecutor examining evidence. "That's an interesting characterization." The live stream had reached 41,203 viewers. Kingston Banking was trending alongside Hat Banking Dignity. Financial journalists monitoring social media had begun reaching out to their banking industry contacts, sensing a story that went far beyond one discriminatory encounter. Amara's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it. "Legal team standing by, Securities Division monitoring market impact, awaiting instructions." "Mr. Whitmore, Mr. Carlyle," she said, her tone shifting to something harder, more final. "I want you to understand something clearly. This isn't about money. Money is just a tool." She gestured toward the live stream, the watching customers, the broader audience now paying attention. "This is about dignity, about the assumption that respect is earned through bank statements rather than basic humanity, about the casual cruelty that happens when people think there are no consequences." Her briefcase held one more document. She pulled it out slowly, deliberately. The heading read, "Asset Withdrawal Authorization, Immediate Execution Protocol." The signature lines were already prepared. Her name, the date, witness requirements, everything needed to transfer $3.2 billion away from First National Trust with a few pen strokes. "I built Kingston Holdings from nothing," Amara continued, her voice carrying the weight of absolute conviction. "No family money, no inherited connections, just intelligence, persistence, and the belief that respect shouldn't be rationed based on appearance." The lobby had become a classroom, and everyone was learning. "Every month, my firm processes over 800 million in transactions. We manage pension funds for teachers, infrastructure bonds for cities, investment portfolios for institutions that serve communities exactly like this one." She looked directly at Whitmore, holding his gaze until he couldn't look away. What you showed me today, the assumption, the dismissal, the casual cruelty, that represents everything wrong with an industry that's supposed to serve people, not judge them. The live stream counter hit 47,891 viewers. Someone had cross-posted to LinkedIn, where financial professionals were sharing and commenting in real time. The story was breaking beyond social media into the formal networks where careers were built and destroyed. "So here's what's going to happen," Amara said, her voice calm as still water before a storm. "I'm going to give you exactly 5 minutes to convince me that First National Trust deserves to keep managing $3.2 billion in institutional assets." She checked her watch. "Starting now." The silence that followed was deafening. 47,000 people watched and waited. In 17 minutes, Whitmore was supposed to walk into a boardroom and accept a promotion that would define the rest of his career. Instead, he stood in his own lobby, watching everything he'd worked for hang by the thinnest possible thread, the grace of a woman he'd dismissed as unworthy of basic human decency. The clock above the reception desk read 3:18 p.m. Time was running out. 5 minutes. 300 seconds to salvage a career, a reputation, and $3.2 billion in institutional assets. Whitmore's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. 3 years of MBA training, countless customer service seminars, and executive leadership workshops had never prepared him for this moment. "Dr. Kingston," he began, his voice cracking slightly, I sincerely apologize for my unprofessional behavior." "There's no excuse for—" 4 minutes, 50 seconds, Amara interrupted, consulting her watch with the precision of a bomb disposal expert monitoring a countdown. The live stream had reached 52,147 viewers. Comments flooded the screen so fast they blurred into a digital waterfall of outrage, support, and disbelief. Local news stations had dispatched crews. The story was breaking into mainstream media cycles in real time. Carlyle grabbed Whitmore's arm, whispering frantically, "The diversity initiative, the community outreach programs, promise her anything." But Amara heard every word. "Mr. Carlyle, promises are just words until they become policies. I'm more interested in systemic change than personal apologies." Her phone rang again. This time she answered on speaker. "Dr. Kingston, this is David Chen from Securities Trading. First National's stock price has dropped 7% in the last 20 minutes. Should we short the position before market close?" The question landed in the lobby like a financial neutron bomb. Shorting the stock would be both profitable and devastating, betting against the bank while simultaneously destroying its market value. "Not yet, David, but prepare the paperwork." She ended the call and looked at Whitmore with clinical interest. 4 minutes, 20 seconds. Eleanor Hastings stepped closer to the group. "Young man, I've been a customer here for 42 years. My family has trusted this bank through 3 generations. If you lose Dr. Kingston's business because of your prejudice, you'll lose mine too, Mrs. Hastings," Whitmore pleaded. "Please don't let emotions—" "Emotions?" Eleanor's voice could have cut diamond. "I'm talking about economics. If she pulls $3 billion, what happens to our interest rates? Our service quality? Our branch locations?" The mathematics were brutal and immediate. Banks operated on razor-thin margins. Losing 3% of managed assets would trigger cost-cutting measures across the entire institution. Branch closures, staff reductions, reduced services for remaining customers. 4 minutes, Amara announced. Whitmore's phone buzzed with a text from President Chen. "Emergency board meeting moved to 3:25 p.m. Your attendance mandatory. Fix this now." The board meeting had been rescheduled around his crisis. Every executive at First National was now watching, waiting, calculating the damage to their own careers if this situation exploded beyond containment. "Dr. Kingston," Whitmore tried again, sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. "What would it take? What policies? What changes? What guarantees?" Amara pulled a leather portfolio from her briefcase. "I'm glad you asked. Kingston Holdings maintains detailed requirements for institutional partnerships. She opened the portfolio, revealing a comprehensive document titled Dignity Standards for Financial Service Providers. First, immediate implementation of bias monitoring systems. Every customer interaction recorded and reviewed quarterly for discriminatory patterns. Carlyle nodded frantically. Absolutely. We can install new systems, train the staff. Second, Amara continued, reading from her document. Mandatory implicit bias training for all staff members, from tellers to executives. Quarterly certifications required. Done, Whitmore said immediately. Whatever you need. Third, establishment of a customer dignity ombudsman position, independent oversight of service quality with direct reporting to the board of directors. The requirements were comprehensive, expensive, and would fundamentally alter how First National operated. But they were also reasonable, ethical, and long overdue. 3 minutes, 30 seconds. The live stream had reached 63,891 viewers. Had banking reform was trending alongside the original hashtags. Financial industry analysts were publishing real-time commentary on LinkedIn and Twitter, discussing the broader implications for banking regulation and corporate accountability. Fourth, Amara read, community investment requirements, annual commitments to underserved neighborhoods, minority-owned businesses, and educational initiatives. She looked up from the document. $2.3 million annually for 10 years, administered through independent oversight to ensure proper allocation. Whitmore's calculator brain worked frantically. $23 million over 10 years, plus implementation costs for new systems and training. Expensive, but manageable compared to losing $3.2 billion in assets. Yes, he said immediately. All of it. Every requirement. Mr. Whitmore, Amara's voice carried a note of skepticism. You're agreeing to fundamental changes in your institution's operating procedures. Do you have the authority to make such commitments? The question exposed the core problem. Branch managers didn't restructure corporate policies. Regional vice presidents had limited influence over system-wide changes. Only the board of directors could authorize the comprehensive reforms Amara demanded. 3 minutes. Whitmore's phone rang. President Chen again. Answer it, Amara suggested. On speaker. Whitmore's hand trembled as he accepted the call and activated the speaker function. Whitmore, tell me you've resolved this situation. Chen's voice filled the lobby. President Chen, Amara interjected before Whitmore could respond. This is Dr. Kingston. We're discussing implementation of comprehensive dignity standards across your institution. Dr. Kingston, I'm mortified by what happened. Whatever you need, whatever changes are required, I need systemic reform, not superficial apologies. Your branch manager has agreed to my requirements but lacks the authority to implement them. The silence stretched for 10 seconds. President Chen was calculating the same mathematics that had terrified Whitmore. $3.2 billion in immediate losses, plus $5.5 billion in future business, versus the cost of comprehensive policy reform. What are your specific requirements? Chen asked. Amara read through her list again, her voice steady and professional. Bias monitoring systems, mandatory training, independent oversight, community investment requirements. These changes would cost approximately $4.7 million in the first year, Chen calculated aloud, and roughly $2.5 million annually thereafter. Compared to losing $3.2 billion immediately, Amara replied, plus forfeiting $5.5 billion in projected municipal bond business. The mathematics spoke for themselves. $8.7 billion in potential losses versus $35 million in reform costs over 10 years. 2 minutes. Dr. Kingston, Chen's voice carried the weight of executive decision-making. I'm authorizing immediate implementation of your requirements. Full board approval by Friday. In writing, Amara specified. Signed agreements with specific timelines and measurable benchmarks. Absolutely. Legal will draft the documents this afternoon. 1 minute, 30 seconds. The live stream had exploded to 78,034 viewers. Someone had created a hashtag specifically for the countdown. Number 90 seconds left. Local news crews were arriving at the bank, setting up cameras outside the marble entrance. Dr. Kingston, Whitmore found his voice again. I want to personally apologize. Not because of the money, but because what I did was wrong. Fundamentally, ethically wrong. His apology carried the weight of genuine recognition. 3 years of casual prejudice, of assumptions based on appearance, of treating dignity like a privilege rather than a right. 1 minute. Amara closed her portfolio and returned it to her briefcase. The asset withdrawal authorization remained on the counter, unsigned but ready. Mr. Whitmore, your apology is noted, but I'm more interested in whether you understand why this happened. Because I judged you based on your appearance, instead of treating you with basic human respect, he said immediately. Deeper than that. Whitmore thought for a moment, his career hanging in the balance. Because I assumed that wealth and worth were the same thing. That your value as a customer depended on what I could see instead of who you actually were. 30 seconds. The lobby held its breath. 78,000 people watched through their screens. Employees throughout First National monitored the situation. Financial analysts waited to see whether $3.2 billion would stay or go. Amara picked up the withdrawal authorization, holding it like a loaded weapon. Mr. Whitmore, I'm going to give First National Trust 6 months to prove that meaningful change is possible. But I'm also going to be watching very carefully. She tore the withdrawal authorization in half. The lobby erupted in spontaneous applause. Even some of the live stream viewers were cheering in their comments. Jasmine wiped tears from her eyes. Eleanor Hastings smiled with satisfaction. Time, Amara announced, checking her watch. $3.2 billion had just been saved by a combination of genuine remorse, comprehensive reform commitments, and the recognition that dignity wasn't negotiable. The marble lobby had transformed from a battlefield into something resembling a courtroom where justice had actually been served. The live stream, now approaching 89,000 viewers, captured every moment of what would become a defining case study in corporate accountability. Within 2 hours, the consequences began cascading through First National Trust with surgical precision. President Chen's voice crackled through Whitmore's phone one final time. Mr. Whitmore, you're suspended pending a full investigation. Report to Human Resources at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Mr. Carlisle will assume temporary branch management duties. The words landed with the finality of a judge's gavel. 3 years of building toward regional vice president, destroyed in 18 minutes of discriminatory behavior broadcast to nearly 90,000 witnesses. Carlisle stepped forward, his face pale but determined. Dr. Kingston, I want to personally ensure that every commitment made today is honored. You have my word. Mr. Carlisle, Amara replied, I appreciate your intention, but I'm more interested in systems than promises. Words change with personnel. Policies endure. That evening, President Chen appeared on a hastily arranged live stream from the bank's corporate headquarters. The backdrop showed First National's logo alongside their newly drafted Customer Dignity Charter. This afternoon, our institution failed one of our most valued partners, Chen announced to an audience of over 200,000 viewers across multiple platforms. Dr. Amara Kingston deserved our respect and received our prejudice. This ends today. The statement was precise, unequivocal, and legally vetted. No corporate doublespeak, no deflection of responsibility. Just institutional acknowledgement of failure and commitment to change. Within 36 hours, the concrete reforms began implementation. The Customer Dignity Monitoring System launched with German engineering precision. Every interaction in every branch would be recorded, analyzed, and scored for bias indicators. Quarterly reports would track patterns, identify problems, and measure improvement across demographic categories. Jasmine Rodriguez received an unexpected promotion to branch manager, effective immediately. Her 3 years of witnessing discrimination had qualified her uniquely to prevent it. Her first directive, mandatory bias interruption training for every employee, including executives. If you see it happening, you stop it, became the new institutional standard. No exceptions, no excuses, no career considerations that outweighed basic human dignity. The Community Investment Initiative received its first funding within a week. $2.3 million earmarked for underserved neighborhoods, minority-owned businesses, and educational programs. Not charity, but investment in communities that banks had traditionally overlooked. Mrs. Eleanor Hastings accepted an invitation to join Kingston Holdings' Community Advisory Board, bringing 4 decades of banking experience and zero tolerance for institutional prejudice. Her first recommendation: mystery shopper programs specifically designed to test discrimination responses. The ripple effects spread beyond First National with surprising speed. 47 other banks across 6 states implemented similar dignity standards within 3 months. The American Banking Association created new discrimination reporting protocols. Federal regulators cited the First National case in updated guidance documents. Not revolution, but evolution. The kind of systematic change that happens when economic pressure aligns with moral imperative. Demetrius Johnson received formal commendation for his professional conduct during the incident. His body camera footage became training material for security personnel across the banking industry. Sometimes doing your job correctly means everything when everyone else is failing theirs. The live stream video, edited into a 12-minute highlight reel, garnered 3.7 million views across all platforms. Comments ranged from applause to analysis to personal stories of similar discrimination. The conversation had grown beyond banking into broader questions about dignity, respect, and institutional accountability. Banking dignity became more than a hashtag. It evolved into a movement demanding service equality regardless of appearance, accent, or assumptions about wealth. 3 months later, Reginald Whitmore III published a LinkedIn article titled, "The Day I Lost Everything and Found My Conscience." The post went viral among business professionals, generating discussions about implicit bias, customer service, and the true cost of discrimination. His new position at a small community credit union paid 40% less than his First National salary, but his performance reviews consistently highlighted his newfound commitment to treating every customer with equal respect. Humility, it turned out, was an excellent teacher. The intellectual victory resonated far beyond financial statements. Amara had chosen transformation over punishment, systemic change over personal revenge. The approach proved more powerful than any lawsuit, more lasting than any settlement. First National's customer satisfaction scores increased 34% within 6 months. Minority business banking relationships grew by 180%. The institution discovered that dignity was not just morally right, it was financially profitable. Dr. Amara Kingston never mentioned the incident in subsequent interviews. When asked about effective corporate reform strategies, she simply noted that meaningful change requires both economic leverage and moral clarity. Markets respond to both profit and principle. The most profound transformation was cultural rather than procedural. Banking, while black, brown, young, old, or apparently poor, became safer across an entire industry. Not perfect, but measurably better. Sometimes the quietest revolutions create the loudest change. 6 months after that transformative Tuesday afternoon, Dr. Amara Kingston returned to First National Trust. Not as a wronged customer seeking justice, but as a partner reviewing progress on the dignity initiatives her courage had sparked. The same marble lobby gleamed under afternoon sunlight, but everything else had changed. Digital displays showed real-time customer satisfaction scores. Training certificates hung beside employee photos. A prominent plaque announced the Customer Dignity Charter in 3 languages. Jasmine Rodriguez, now branch manager, greeted her personally. "Dr. Kingston, welcome back. How can we serve you today?" The question carried weight beyond courtesy. Every interaction was monitored, measured, and improved. The systems Amara had demanded were working, transforming not just policies, but hearts. "I'm here to review our community investment quarterly reports," Amara replied, setting her briefcase on the same counter where discrimination had once flourished. The lobby buzzed with diverse customers receiving identical respect. Elderly immigrants, young entrepreneurs, families opening first accounts, all treated with the dignity that should have been standard decades earlier. These touching stories of financial inclusion represented real-life stories of institutional transformation. The original live stream video had become a case study in business schools, law programs, and corporate training seminars. Students analyzed the economic leverage, legal implications, and moral courage that created systemic change. Black stories like Amara's inspired similar stands across industries. Mrs. Eleanor Hastings, now 83 and sharper than ever, served on 3 banking reform committees. Her advocacy proved that allies come in unexpected packages and that moral courage transcends demographic boundaries. Reginald Whitmore's humbling had become legend in banking circles. His transformation from prejudiced manager to equality advocate demonstrated that people could change when consequences demanded growth. His current credit union consistently rated highest in customer satisfaction surveys. The $3.2 billion that almost walked away remained invested through Kingston Holdings, generating steady returns while funding community development projects across 17 states. Money with a mission, capital with conscience. First National's stock price had recovered completely, then climbed to record highs. Treating customers with dignity proved profitable beyond anyone's projections. Respect was good business, and good business created better communities. The customer dignity movement had spread internationally. Banks in Canada, the UK, and Australia adopted similar monitoring systems. Financial institutions worldwide recognized that discrimination wasn't just morally wrong, it was economically stupid. Dr. Amara Kingston rarely discussed that Tuesday afternoon publicly. When pressed for commentary, she simply observed, "Dignity isn't negotiable. Respect shouldn't require credentials. And sometimes the most powerful response to injustice is refusing to accept it as normal." Her life stories continued focusing on education, investment, and institutional reform. The banking incident represented just one chapter in a larger narrative about using privilege to create opportunity for others. The real victory wasn't the money that stayed invested or the policies that changed. It was the cultural shift that made discrimination riskier than respect, prejudice more expensive than equity. Every customer who entered First National, or the 127 other institutions that adopted similar reforms, benefited from 18 minutes of live-streamed courage that refused to accept business as usual. Your turn to make change happen. Have you witnessed workplace discrimination that needs addressing? Share your own real-life stories in the comments below. Which companies in your community need to learn this lesson next? Your voice matters in creating the dignity every person deserves. Tag 3 people who need to see how quiet power changes loud injustice. Subscribe for more stories proving that one person's courage can transform entire industries. Because sometimes the most important banking transaction isn't about money, it's about respect.